You wake up at 3 in the morning, and the thoughts are already there waiting for you. Not anxious thoughts exactly, not the kind that therapy teaches you to challenge or reframe. These are different. These are observations, connections, implications that your mind makes automatically now, whether you want it to or not. You see the patterns in conversations that others miss. You notice the contradictions people live with comfortably, the small cruelties they commit without awareness, the ways systems fail in predictable ways that somehow everyone else accepts as just how things are. And you are tired. Not physically tired, though that too. You are tired of seeing, tired of understanding, tired of carrying knowledge that makes you feel like a stranger in every room you enter. You have tried to talk about what you see. You have tried to share your observations, your concerns, your awareness of things that seem urgent and important. And you have watched eyes glaze over. You have felt the subtle shift in energy when people begin to see you as intense, as overthinking, as someone who makes things unnecessarily complicated. So you have learned to be quiet. You have learned to nod along. You have learned to exist in a strange double consciousness, where you see what you see but pretend you do not, where you understand what you understand but act as if you do not. And this split, this performance of ignorance, it exhausts you in ways you cannot explain to anyone, because explaining would require them to see what you see. And if they could see what you see, you would not be so alone. What if I told you that this is not a defect? What if I told you that Hannah Arendt, one of the most penetrating philosophical minds of the 20th century, understood exactly this condition, examined it with precision, and revealed something about consciousness itself that changes everything about how you understand your struggle? Here is what Arendt understood that most people miss. Consciousness is not a gift that makes life easier. Consciousness is a burden that makes life more difficult. The more clearly you see, the more you become aware of, the harder it becomes to live in the world as it is. This is not a pleasant truth. It is not the kind of insight that gets shared in morning affirmations or written on inspirational posters. But it is true, and if you are someone who has experienced this burden, you already know it is true even if you have never had words for it. Arendt spent her life examining what it means to think, to be conscious, to refuse to accept easy answers or comfortable lies. And what she discovered is that thinking itself creates a kind of loneliness. Not the loneliness of being physically alone, but the loneliness of occupying a different reality than the people around you. When you think deeply, when you examine assumptions, when you follow implications to their logical conclusions, you end up in a place that most people never visit. And from that place, communication becomes almost impossible, because you are trying to describe a landscape that others have not seen and do not believe exists. Let me be specific about what this looks like in lived experience. You are in a meeting at work, and someone proposes a solution to a problem. Immediately you see the flaws. Not because you are trying to be difficult, not because you enjoy being contrary, but because your mind automatically traces the chain of consequences. You see how this solution will create new problems. You see how it contradicts a decision made 3 months ago. You see how it benefits one department while harming another. You see the political motivations behind the suggestion. You see all of this in the space of seconds, and you face a choice. Do you say something? If you say something, you will be seen as negative, as someone who always points out problems, as someone who makes things complicated. If you say nothing, you will watch the predictable unfold. You will see the consequences you anticipated arrive right on schedule, and you will feel the exhaustion of knowing and not being able to prevent. This is not a hypothetical scenario. This is your daily life. And it is not limited to work. You see it in friendships when someone repeatedly makes the same destructive choice and cannot understand why you are not more supportive. You see it in family dynamics, where patterns repeat across generations, and no one wants to acknowledge what is obvious. You see it in political discourse, where the same shallow arguments circulate endlessly, and pointing out their inadequacy makes you the problem. You see it everywhere, and seeing it separates you from almost everyone. Arendt called this the activity of thinking, and she distinguished it sharply from knowing. Knowing is the accumulation of facts, the mastery of information. Thinking is something else entirely. Thinking is the examination of meaning, the questioning of assumptions, the unwillingness to accept what is given without interrogation. And here is the crucial point. Most people do not think. They know things, they have opinions, they have beliefs, but they do not engage in the activity of thinking, which requires a willingness to question everything, including your own certainties. This is not an insult. It is an observation about how consciousness operates at different levels. And when you are someone who cannot stop thinking, who cannot turn off the examination of meaning, you become aware of just how rare this activity is. You become aware that most of human life proceeds without it. People make decisions based on what feels right, what everyone else is doing, what they have always done. They do not examine the foundations of their choices. They do not trace implications. They do not sit with contradictions until they resolve or reveal something deeper. And this is not because they are stupid or bad. It is because thinking is uncomfortable, destabilizing, and socially isolating. Most people avoid it for very good reasons, but you cannot avoid it. Your mind does it automatically, and this is why you fight battles no one understands. The battle is not with other people, though it often appears that way. The battle is with reality itself as you perceive it, versus reality as others perceive it. You see structures of harm that others experience as normal. You see contradictions that others live with comfortably. You see futures that others cannot imagine. And the gap between your perception and theirs creates a constant friction, a constant need to translate, to simplify, to dumb down what you understand so that it becomes communicable. But in that translation, the essential truth is lost. What you see clearly becomes vague when you try to explain it. The urgency you feel becomes mere opinion when you try to convey it. And so you are left with the choice between being understood and being honest. You can say what people can hear, or you can say what you actually see. Rarely can you do both. If this perspective is opening something up for you, consider subscribing. I explore these territories every week, and I would love to have you along for the journey. Now, Arendt would push us further here. She would ask us to examine what we mean by understanding, because part of the battle lucid minds fight is the battle to be understood, but another part, perhaps the deeper part, is the battle to understand why understanding matters so much in the first place. Why does it hurt so much to be misunderstood? Why does it feel so isolating to see what others do not see? The answer, I think, is that understanding creates connection, and connection is a fundamental human need. When someone understands what you see, when they can follow your thinking, when they arrive at the same conclusions or at least comprehend how you arrived at yours, you feel less alone. You feel confirmed in your reality. You feel that your consciousness has made contact with another consciousness. But when this does not happen, when your attempts at communication fail repeatedly, when people respond to your insights with confusion or dismissal, or that subtle backing away that means you have said too much, you begin to doubt not just whether you can be understood, but whether your understanding itself is valid. Maybe you are seeing things that are not there. Maybe you are making connections that do not exist. Maybe your clarity is actually distortion. This is the insidious nature of isolation. It makes you question the very capacity that isolates you. But here is what Arendt would say, and here is where her philosophy becomes not just descriptive, but almost liberating. The fact that others do not see what you see does not mean you are wrong. The fact that your insights are not shared does not invalidate them. Truth is not democratic. Reality is not determined by consensus. The majority can be and often is mistaken, not because they are foolish, but because they are not looking, not thinking, not examining. Arendt witnessed this in the most extreme form during the rise of totalitarianism, when entire populations accepted lies because thinking had become too dangerous, too uncomfortable, too socially costly. She saw how easily people abandon the activity of thinking when thinking threatens their security, their belonging, their sense of normalcy. And she saw how the few who continued to think, who continued to see clearly, became isolated, became suspect, became targets precisely because their consciousness was a reproach to everyone else's willingness to not know. You are not facing anything as extreme as totalitarianism, probably, but you are facing the same fundamental dynamic. You are experiencing what happens when consciousness operates at a level that social reality cannot accommodate. I know many of you watching this have never told anyone what you are really experiencing. You have been carrying this alone, maybe for years, thinking something is fundamentally wrong with you for seeing what you see, for caring about things that do not seem to trouble anyone else. But here is what I want you to understand. The moment you name this, the moment you acknowledge it out loud, even just in a comment, something shifts. You stop being alone with it. So let me ask you directly, when did you first notice that you could not turn off your awareness? When did you realize that you were seeing things others could not or would not see? I want you to share in the comments, not because I need engagement, but because someone else watching this needs to see your words. They need to know they are not the only one. And if you cannot find the words right now, if it feels too heavy to articulate, just type this. I see what others miss. That is it. Just those 5 words. Because when you do, you create permission for dozens of others to say it too. Your honesty, your willingness to be seen in your struggle, it helps break the silence that keeps all of us isolated. So comment below. Tell me where you are in this. I read every single one, and I promise you, you are not alone in what you are feeling. Now let us go deeper into what Arendt can show us about this condition. She made a distinction that is crucial here, the distinction between the life of the mind and the life of action. The life of action is what most people live most of the time. It is doing, making, building, participating in the world of appearances. It is concrete, visible, shared. The life of the mind is different. It is invisible, solitary, concerned with meaning rather than outcomes. And here is the problem. The life of the mind requires withdrawal. You cannot think deeply while fully engaged in action. You cannot examine foundations while standing on them. You cannot question assumptions while using them to navigate social reality. Thinking requires a stepping back, a creating of distance between yourself and what you are examining. And this distance, this withdrawal, it is visible to others even when your thinking is not. They see you as detached, distracted, not fully present. They sense that part of you is elsewhere, and they are right. Part of you is elsewhere. Part of you is in that interior space where thinking happens, where connections are made, where implications are traced. And this creates a kind of double alienation. You are alienated from those who do not think because you see what they do not see. But you are also alienated from the life of action itself because thinking pulls you out of it. You cannot fully participate in what you are simultaneously examining. This is the particular loneliness of the lucid mind. You are not just misunderstood by others. You are, in a sense, exiled from the common world, the world of shared meanings and unquestioned assumptions. Arendt called this common world the space where human plurality happens, where we appear to each other, where we create shared reality through speech and action. But to appear in this space requires a certain acceptance of its terms, its language, its shared reference points. And when you have examined these terms and found them wanting, when you have seen through the language to what it obscures, when you have questioned the reference points and discovered they point to nothing solid, you cannot simply participate as if you had not seen what you have seen. You are changed by your own consciousness. And the change makes you a kind of stranger, someone who technically speaks the same language as everyone else, but uses words differently, means different things, cannot quite connect because the foundation has shifted for you in ways it has not shifted for them. Let me give you an example of how this operates. Take a concept like success. In the common world, success has a fairly stable meaning. It means career advancement, financial stability, recognition, achievement of goals. People use this word and understand each other. They have conversations about success, offer each other advice about how to achieve it, congratulate each other when it is attained. But if you have thought deeply about success, if you have examined what it actually means to achieve and whether achievement brings what it promises, if you have traced the psychological mechanisms of striving and noticed how each achievement immediately creates a new lack, if you have observed how cultural definitions of success serve certain power structures and not others, if you have sat with the question of whether there is any such thing as inherent worth versus worth determined by external validation, then the word success no longer means what it means in the common world. You cannot use it without quotation marks, without irony, without a sense of its inadequacy. And when someone asks you about your career goals or congratulates you on an achievement, you face that familiar dilemma. Do you respond in the language of the common world, using success as they use it? participating in the shared meaning even though you have seen through it? Or do you try to communicate your actual understanding, knowing that it will likely be received as cynicism, as bitterness, as making things too complicated? This is just one word. Now multiply this across every concept, every shared assumption, every unexamined belief that structures social reality. Work, family, love, happiness, purpose, morality, progress, freedom. You have thought about all of these. You have examined them. You have discovered their instabilities, their contradictions, their historical contingencies, and each examination has made you less able to participate in conversations that take these concepts for granted. You are not trying to be difficult. You are not trying to alienate people. You are simply operating with a different understanding of the terms that structure communication. And this difference, invisible to those who have not done the same examination, creates an unbridgeable gap. They think you are speaking the same language. You know you are not. And this knowledge, this awareness of the gap, it is exhausting to carry while pretending it does not exist. Arendt would say that this is the cost of thinking. Thinking dissolves certainties. It destabilizes foundations. It makes the familiar strange. And once you have seen the familiar as strange, once you have questioned what everyone else accepts, you cannot simply return to the comfort of not knowing. You are changed. Your consciousness has been altered. And this alteration separates you from those who have not undergone it. But, and this is crucial, Arendt would also say that this cost is worth paying, not because it makes you superior, not because it makes you special, but because thinking is what makes us human in the fullest sense. To think is to assert your independence from what is given, to refuse to be merely a cog in a machine, to claim the freedom that comes from examining your own existence rather than simply living it unreflectively. The loneliness is real. The battle is real. But the alternative, the life of unexamined acceptance, is a kind of death of the self even while the body continues to function. Here is another dimension of this that Arendt illuminates. The lucid mind does not just see more. The lucid mind sees differently. And what it sees often is responsibility. When you trace implications, when you follow chains of causation, when you examine how systems work and who they harm, you become aware of your own complicity in ways that others do not. You see how your choices have consequences that extend far beyond yourself. You see how your comfort depends on others' exploitation. You see how your silence enables harm. You see how neutrality is not actually neutral. And this awareness creates a moral burden that others do not carry because they do not see what you see. They can participate in systems of harm without feeling implicated because they have not examined how those systems work. They can make choices without agonizing over their implications because they have not traced those implications. They can live with contradictions between their stated values and their actual behavior because they have not sat with those contradictions long enough for them to become unbearable. But you have done these things. You have examined, you have traced, you have sat with contradictions, and now you see your own complicity with a clarity that makes it impossible to be comfortable. This is another battle that no one understands. The battle with your own conscience. The battle with the knowledge of your participation in things you oppose. The battle with the impossibility of living ethically in systems that are fundamentally unethical. Arendt understood this deeply. She understood that once you see the structures of power, the mechanisms of oppression, the ways that evil is not exceptional but banal, ordinary, built into the everyday functioning of social reality, you cannot unsee it, and you cannot extricate yourself from it simply by being a good person or having good intentions. You are implicated by your existence in a social world that operates through exploitation and harm. And this implication, this complicity, it creates a specific kind of suffering that is invisible to those who do not see the structures that create it. They think you are being too hard on yourself. They think you are overthinking. They think you are making yourself miserable by caring about things you cannot change. And they are not entirely wrong. You are making yourself miserable. But you are making yourself miserable by seeing clearly. And the alternative, not seeing clearly, is not actually available to you anymore. You cannot unknow what you know. You cannot unsee what you have seen. The lucidity itself is the trap. So what do you do with this? What do you do when consciousness is a burden, when clarity creates suffering, when understanding separates you from others? Arendt does not offer easy answers because there are no easy answers. But she offers something more valuable. She offers a way of understanding the condition itself that removes the layer of self-blame, the sense that something is wrong with you for experiencing what you experience. She shows that this is not a personal failing. This is what happens when consciousness operates at a certain level. This is the cost of thinking in a world that mostly does not think. And she shows that the solution is not to stop thinking, to dull yourself, to force yourself back into the comfort of not knowing. The solution, if there is one, is to accept the condition, to stop fighting against your own lucidity, to stop trying to make others see what you see, to stop expecting understanding from those who have not done the work of examination that you have done. This sounds like resignation, but it is not. It is a different kind of freedom. The freedom that comes from accepting what is, including your own isolation, including your own burden of consciousness, including the fact that you will always be somewhat alone in what you see. There is a paradox here that Arendt would appreciate. The more you accept your isolation, the less isolated you actually feel. The more you stop trying to be understood, the more at peace you become with your own understanding. The more you accept that most people will not see what you see, the less their not seeing hurts you. This is not about giving up on communication. This is not about becoming cynical or withdrawn. This is about releasing the expectation that has been causing so much of your suffering. The expectation that if you just explain it right, if you just find the right words, if you just try hard enough, people will understand. They will not, mostly. And this is not because you are failing at communication. This is because communication requires shared ground, and you are standing on different ground than they are. You have moved to a different place through the activity of thinking, and they have not made that same journey, so the ground is different, the view is different, and no amount of explanation can bridge that gap unless they are willing to make the journey themselves, which most people are not willing to do because the journey is difficult and the destination is lonely. But here is what else Arendt shows us. You are not entirely alone. Throughout history, there have always been others who could not stop thinking, who saw what others did not see, who carried the burden of consciousness. These people found each other, not easily, not quickly, but eventually. They found each other through their work, through their writing, through the traces they left of having occupied that same difficult territory of lucid awareness. When you read Arendt, you are encountering someone who saw clearly, who thought deeply, who refused easy answers. And in encountering her thought, you are less alone. She is dead. She cannot speak to you directly, but her consciousness, recorded in her words, can meet your consciousness across time. And this is what happens when lucid minds find each other. Not understanding in the sense of total transparency, not merging into one perspective, but recognition. The recognition that someone else has been here, someone else has seen this, someone else has fought these same battles. And that recognition, even across decades, even mediated by text, it reduces the isolation. So part of what I am offering you here, part of what this video is that recognition. If you have stayed with me this far, if what I am describing matches your experience, then you know that I have seen what you see. Maybe not exactly, maybe not in every detail, but the territory is familiar to both of us. We have both occupied that space where thinking creates distance, where awareness creates burden, where lucidity creates loneliness. And in this moment, through these words, we are less alone. This is not a solution to your struggle. This is not going to make the battles easier. But it is a witnessing of the struggle, an acknowledgement that the struggle is real, that it is not your fault, that it is the cost of consciousness itself. And sometimes witnessing is enough. Sometimes being seen in your experience, even by a stranger speaking through a screen, loosens the grip of isolation just enough that you can breathe. If what I am sharing here resonates with something you have been feeling, something you have not quite been able to name, then I want you to know you are not alone in this. There are many of us exploring these questions, sitting with these uncomfortable truths, learning to see in new ways. I create these videos for people who are ready to go deeper, who are not satisfied with surface answers, who want to understand rather than just feel better temporarily. If that is you, consider subscribing. Not because you need another channel to follow, but because this journey of understanding yourself, of waking up to what is real, it helps to have companions along the way. People who will not offer you easy fixes, but will sit with you in the questions. I will be here every week with another exploration, another perspective, another thread to pull on, and I would be honored to have you here as part of this community of seekers and thinkers. So if this feels right, hit that subscribe button. And if you found value in this particular exploration, let me know in the comments what resonated most with you. Your reflections often illuminate things I had not considered. Now let me address something that might be occurring to you. If the lucid mind is doomed to isolation, if seeing clearly means being separated from others, then what is the point? Why would you want this consciousness if it only creates suffering? This is a fair question, and Arendt would not dismiss it. She would say that we do not choose our consciousness. We do not decide to think deeply any more than we decide to be tall or short. Consciousness happens to us. Thinking emerges in some people and not others, and the reasons why are mysterious. What we do choose is how we relate to our own consciousness. We can resent it, fight against it, wish we were different, or we can accept it, work with it, find meaning in it, even when it creates difficulty. Arendt chose the second path. She accepted that thinking was her nature. She accepted that it would make her life harder. She accepted that it would create distance between herself and others. And she decided that the value of thinking, the importance of examining reality clearly, was worth the cost. Not because it made her happy, not because it made her successful, but because it made her human in the way she understood humanity, as the capacity to question, to examine, to refuse to be carried along by forces we do not understand. This might sound abstract, but it has concrete implications for how you live your life. If you accept that your consciousness is not going to change, that you are always going to see what you see, that you are always going to think more deeply than most people around you, then you can stop trying to fix this about yourself. You can stop trying to be more normal, more easygoing, more capable of just going with the flow. You can stop apologizing for your intensity, your complexity, your need to examine things that others take for granted. You can accept that this is who you are, and from that acceptance, you can build a life that accommodates your consciousness rather than fighting against it. This might mean choosing work that allows you to use your analytical capacity rather than suppressing it. This might mean seeking relationships with people who appreciate depth rather than being threatened by it. This might mean spending more time alone than most people do, because solitude is where thinking happens, and you need thinking the way others need social connection. This might mean accepting that you will always be somewhat of an outsider, somewhat apart, somewhat other than the mainstream. But other than is not worse than. It is just different than. And different than has its own value, its own dignity, its own place in the world. Arendt also shows us something important about the relationship between thinking and action. Just because you think deeply does not mean you are paralyzed. Just because you see complexity does not mean you cannot act. In fact, Arendt would argue that thinking makes action more meaningful, not less. When you act from a place of examined understanding, rather than unexamined assumption, when you make choices based on clear sight, rather than blind convention, your actions have a different quality. They are yours in a way that unreflective actions are not. They come from consciousness, from deliberation, from the activity of thinking that you have engaged in. This does not make them perfect. Thinking does not give you certainty. Thinking reveals how much you do not know, how many factors you cannot control, how unpredictable consequences are. But it gives you something else. It gives you integrity, the alignment between what you see and what you do, between your understanding and your choices. And this alignment, this integrity, it is rare and valuable even when it does not lead to conventional success or social approval. So the battle that lucid minds fight, the battle that no one understands, it is not a battle that can be won in any conventional sense. You cannot win by making others see what you see. You cannot win by becoming less conscious, less aware, less capable of thinking deeply. You cannot win by finding the perfect words that will bridge the gap between your reality and theirs. But you can stop fighting. You can accept the condition. You can find meaning in the very consciousness that creates your isolation. You can recognize that thinking is not a curse, even when it feels like one. It is a capacity, a way of being human that has its own value separate from whether it makes you happy or successful or understood. And you can find others who occupy this same territory, who fight these same battles, who understand without needing to be convinced because they have been there themselves. These others are rare, but they exist. And when you find them even briefly, even in passing, the recognition is profound. What I want you to understand, finally, is that your struggle is not pathological. It is not a sign that something is wrong with you. It is a sign that you are thinking in a world that mostly does not think. It is a sign that you are conscious in ways that create friction with social reality as it is commonly experienced. And this is difficult. I am not going to tell you it is not difficult, but it is also honorable. It is also valuable. It is also necessary. The world needs people who think, who examine, who refuse to accept what is given without interrogation. The world needs people who see structures of harm and cannot ignore them. The world needs people who trace implications and warn of consequences. The world needs lucid minds, even when it does not understand them, even when it marginalizes them, even when it makes them fight battles alone. Your clarity matters. Your consciousness matters. Your willingness to see what is difficult to see that matters. Not because it will change the world necessarily, but because it is true. And truth has value independent of its effects, independent of whether anyone recognizes it, independent of whether it makes you less alone. You see what you see. You understand what you understand. And that understanding, that lucidity, it is yours. No one can take it from you. No one can diminish it. And no amount of not being understood changes the fact that you see clearly. The battle you fight, the battle no one understands, it is the battle to remain conscious in a world that prefers unconsciousness. And you are winning that battle every day that you continue to think, to examine, to see. The cost is real, but so is the victory.